Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we are going to be ranking the 12th Doctor's era, from worst to best. So, Peter Capaldi's time in the TARDIS. And Peter Capaldi is probably the actor, I think, who is most let down by his era. I did an entire video on that, because so much of his era is a mixed bag. Well, all of his era is a mixed bag. But more so than any Doctor does he have stories that I just don't care for. There are so many stories on this list that are so bad, so bad. Like most Doctors, even their worst stories I find watchable, or there's only like 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe at the bottom that I just straight out don't like or think are terrible. But Capaldi has a lot of them. More so than any Doctor, I feel he's ill-served by his era. And so there's going to be a lot of negativity toward the beginning of this video, because I've been very blunt before about my thoughts on his era. So we have, going by the way I do the stories, going by how I do the stories, there are 33 stories to rank, and we're going to start at the bottom with number 33, which I also consider to be the worst Doctor Who episode of all time. Kill the Moon, which should have been called Kill the Show. Kill the Moon, I have talked about on this channel before. It is probably the stupidest episode of Doctor Who ever written. Everyone involved, not the actors, but like everyone involved in this story getting greenlit needs to be slapped in the face. Like I want to stand them all up in a row and just walk down the row slapping them in the face until I get to the end, and then I want to go all the way back to the front of the row and start over. There's a lot of dumb going on in this episode. Let's start with the moon as an egg. Come again? The moon is an egg that is about to hatch and could hurt the Earth. I come up with better Doctor Who's ideas than that. I'm sure a lot of you come up with better Doctor Who fan fiction ideas than that. But we're like, wait a minute. We've seen episodes in the future where the Doctor's on the moon, like the moon base. Ha ha ha! Oh, don't worry, as soon as the creature hatches, it's going to lay another egg that looks exactly like the previous egg, because sometimes stupidity knows no bounds. You ever met someone who's so stupid they don't deserve to have an opinion? That's the writer of this story. Like, seriously, I just want to smack them. I don't know what they do for a living. It can't be writing. At least I hope it's not writing. They need to be one of those Walmart greeters. They just stand there and tell people hello when they work in the Walmart. That's what that person needs to do. The writer of the story, that's what they need to do for a living. Let them do that. They might can do that. As a writer, no. At least going by this story. Then you have the conflict between the Doctor and Clara, because the Doctor doesn't feel like it's his place to get involved in human affairs, which we know is a common trope with the Doctor. If there's one thing we know for sure about the Doctor, it's that he doesn't like to get involved. The Doctor likes to stay out of it. We all know this as Doctor Who fans, so that's perfectly in character for him to do. Peter Capaldi is putting in a good performance. Jenna Coleman's putting in a good performance, but she still comes across as this uppity little brat, let us say. I don't really care for the special effect of the spiders. Spiders tend not to work in Doctor Who. I don't even remember all of this episode, so it's because it's so god-awful. The way they leave it up to the human race to decide by turning on and off the light. I will probably never watch this episode again. Even for channel purposes, I don't think I could ever make it through this episode again. I would have to get some serious donations on the Patreon or on this channel for somebody to talk me into watching Kill the Moon again. It is awful. The worst episode of Doctor Who ever made. And I hope the writer never writes for Doctor Who ever again. Ever. And number 31 and number 32 are Pyramid at the End of the World and Lie of the Land, the second and third parts of the Monk trilogy. You can put them in either order. The Monk trilogy is awful. Now, I actually like Extremis. Extremis has some neat ideas. It'll be further up on this list because I actually enjoy it. But parts 2 and parts 3 are just... what? There's a lot of me sitting there watching it going, what the fuck is going on? What is going on? What is this? This is dumb. Why are they doing this? Now, there's some good acting performances going on in it, like the scientists who are just slapping their hands because they realize they're in the simulation. The guy who's leading them's cool. The female scientist, the one whose glasses breaks, I like her performance a lot. But just from a story standpoint, the monk design is silly. The way they infiltrate is silly. The fact that I don't even have the words to know where to start by explaining how frustratingly stupid this is, especially because Series 10 overall is a pretty good series with some strong entries, but then you have crap like this that just drags it down. I don't understand why someone did this story. I don't find it interesting. For the most part, I like the fact the Doctor restores his sight temporarily by having to basically take it away from himself in the future, and I'd love to see the consequence of that in a future episode where he goes blind maybe temporarily for an episode because of that. That would be cool. But like, I could see myself going back and rewatching this trilogy one day for the channel. If I didn't have the channel, you know, if I wasn't running a Doctor YouTube channel, I would never watch parts 2 and 3 again. Maybe Extremis, because I like Extremis. But there's no way I would watch part 2 and 3 ever again, ever. But for the sake of the channel, I could see myself watching them as a trilogy sometime, just for video purposes. The bit when the Doctor fakes his regeneration, I can't remember if there's actually a point to that or if it just happens, because they wanted to use, you know, bits of it for the trailer for the series, because they did do that. I don't remember. I remember thinking it was really dumb and getting really bored and getting really distracted while watching it, you know, like wanting to pull my phone out and mess with my phone, just because it's just so uninteresting and crappy. Number 30 on the list is Oxygen. Now, Oxygen is directed well. I don't really care for the story. The writing doesn't impress me. I think it's directed very well. This one, unlike some of the others I've talked about, because I think a lot of people would agree that the ones we've talked about so far aren't that good. Oxygen, I know, has its fans. It's kind of that episode where you either really like it or you really don't. And I know some people who like it. I know some people who really don't. I fall in that category. I didn't like when the girl got killed at the beginning. The story did a really good job of making me feel invested in her as a character. So when she died, I didn't like it. I will give props to the writing for that. In that just short time before the credits even roll, they had me invested in her. It's a great job by the writing. That's a great job by the directing. That's a great job by the actor playing her. And the cinematography, the way they shoot that scene is really good, with the helmet just floats past the guy, and then you turn around and she's... You know, it's an interesting way to do space zombies, and I'll also give it points for being a unique take on space zombies with the suits controlling them. Just for some reason, most of the stuff that comes after that, I just find, again, uninteresting. I still don't quite know how Bill didn't die like the others. When she gets shot, somehow the Doctor did something. I don't remember. So I've watched the episode like once. It's another one of those I never want to go back to. There's a lot of that in the Capaldi era. Episodes I never want to see again. Capaldi's putting in a good performance. Pearl Mackey's putting in a good performance. I still don't know how she didn't die there. I don't remember. I think it's cool the Doctor sacrificing himself almost to save Bill. It cost him his eyesight. That's a very Doctor thing to do. The bit at the end when he's like everything, it all comes down to the suits. It's a little on the nose. It's like the Doctor's making a dad joke. To be fair, I didn't connect what's going on with the suits with a jab against capitalism or about capitalism. I didn't connect those things until he made the joke. So on one hand, it's good he made it, so I went, oh, okay, I see what they're doing here. But on the other hand, it feels like a dad joke, and it's odd to listen to the Doctor say a dad joke. But despite those good things I've been saying about it, I just find it uninteresting for most of its run. it's another one of those that just doesn't grab me. There's a lot of these Capaldi stories, they just don't reach out and grab me. I find them boring. I find them uninteresting. And there's a lot of things I can forgive, but uninteresting is not one of them. Number 29 on the list is Last Christmas, which is dreadful. Last Christmas is my least favorite Christmas special. It's got too many twists going on in it. It would have been a great exit for Clara if Jenna Coleman had left there like originally planned. It would, especially the twist at the end with her being old, perfect setup for her to leave. I would have liked the episode a lot more. But since she decided to stay, it had to be another twist. And this story, twist after twist after twist after twist after twist after twist after twist. Come on, baby, let's do the twist. That seems like what's going on here. There's that many twists in the episode like there is the song. It's cool to have Michael Troughton in it. Sucks he kind of gets killed. The little kind of nods to Alien, like the things that look like face huggers, is pretty cool. I do love that bit when the doctor comments on Alien. You have a horror movie called Alien? No wonder people keep invading you. That's hilarious, I will admit. Again, I think I've only watched this one time, so it's a little hazy in my mind, but I remember hating it, just absolutely hating it and finding it abysmal. Nick Frost as Santa Claus is great, though. Let me say that. And then how it kept twisting where you think you know what's going on, and then it pulls the rug out from under you, then it pulls the rug out, and then it pulls the rug out. Just get the episode over with, please, for the love of God, get the episode over with. And then the old age makeup on Clara looks terrible. How can, in whatever year it was that came out, I don't know or care, how can the makeup look that bad when the makeup that's used on Tom Baker in The Leisure Hive looks like 1,000 times better, and it came out in like 1980, 1981, whatever, 1980. I don't understand how the makeup for like Clara can look like the Prometheus old makeup. Nope, I don't go back to this one. It's another crap one. Number 28 is In the Forest of the Night. My thoughts on that can best be summed up by my God, this episode is so fucking boring. Pardon my language. I warned you there was going to be language in this video. It's so boring. Oh my God. First off, the story is dumb. The forest is coming alive to protect us from the solar, like the sentient plants who've never minded us chopping them down, like they're just subservient to human. Oh my God. The bit at the end with the little girl still being there, like the one character's sister who had died is suddenly there. I have no idea how the fuck that happens. Like, what? Huh? I'm missing something. And I've watched this episode like twice because I'm a glutton for punishment, apparently. And it's so boring. First off, it's got way too much Danny Pink in it. That's never a sign of a good episode because Danny Pink sucks. I never feel invested in him as a character. I never feel invested in Clara and his relationship. I don't know why he's there. The actor is the writing for him is I never care about Danny Pink. So if Danny Pink's heavily in an episode, I'm clocking out right there. Clocking out. Uninterested. I don't even remember a lot of what happens in this one. Is this the one with the bootstrap paradox at the beginning, or is that Listen? I don't know. It's a really bad episode, I remember. Yeah, I don't really remember much about this other than wishing I was anywhere else anytime I'm trying to watch it. That's another one that if I ever watched it again, it would be for channel purposes. That would be one to do like a live reaction to, just because I'm sure it would be hilarious. What's he doing now? He's attaching his belt to the fan for some reason. Oh my God, that episode. Ooh. Nope. Number 27 on the list is Listen, and I don't want to listen or watch. This one is also terrible. This one, on first viewing, I enjoyed all the way till the ending. And the ending just shit the bed. Completely crapped all over the bed. It's diuretic crap. while Capaldi's putting in a good performance, he always does, the idea, this might be the one with the bootstrap paradox, I forget, which is cool. I do like that bootstrap paradox scene in whatever episode it's in. I like the idea of there being something else, whatever theory he has about the entity. That's a cool idea. I would love to have seen that explored further. And the scenes where we're almost seeing it, like the thing under the blanket, when they see Danny Pink's descendant, which I'm really wondering how it works now, and the knocking on the door, all of that has some great tension, some great atmosphere. It's directed pretty well, the episode. But then the payoff that, oh, it's just all in the doctor's head because he was scared as a child. First off, the Danny Pink thing. Obviously, that's not Danny Pink's descendant, unless history changed. Like somehow interacting with the doctor changed his fate and he died earlier. That's a neat little spin. And that all of Danny's descendants, because Danny's timeline changed and he died early, all of his descendants ceased to exist. Fascinating concept. I enjoy that. But other than that, it really makes this whole scene with his descendant irrelevant and moot and boring and uninteresting on rewatch. What was I about to go into? This is also the episode where we get the beginning of Clara Who, and the writer needs to be slapped for that alone. Maybe not the writer, maybe Stephen Moffat for that one. Because this is the first time where I really found Clara annoying. At the end, when she's doing that bit about when she's telling him, do as you're told, and she kind of takes over. No, you don't get to go out. And the rage I feel. The whole bit where, don't worry, she grabs his leg and that's where he gets it from. It's him as a child. And she's literally taking care of him like he's a child. The rage. I cannot put into words the anger and rage and how much I just want to slap people. I mean, I wouldn't, but I want to. I have such an intense hatred for this episode, especially because the ending makes the rest of it not make sense. Was it really just a kid under the blanket? That's uninteresting and stupid. It makes all the other things that happen in the rest of the episode not make sense. It's hard for me to put my rage into words that are appropriate for the video because I hate this episode so. I don't understand why people like this episode. Like I said, it's directed well, but just the writing is awful. The performances are good, but the writing is just awful. It's just, as an episode, it's terrible, especially with that god-awful ending. Number 26, The Girl Who Lived and the Girl Who Died. Yay! More boring. Now, it has moments like the flashback basically the moment when Peter Capaldi realizes why he has his face, and we get that flashback to Fires of Pompeii. That's a beautiful scene. It's a beautiful scene. And it's, once again, and this happens a lot in Capaldi's era, where you have this really wonderful moment that is phenomenal and amazing, and it's stuck in a crap episode. This happens a lot in this era. It's stuck in this really crap episode that's boring. This is 2 episodes of boring. Now, at least the episodes feel like different episodes. They don't feel like one long episode. But the only reason they made this was, well, let's get the girl with Game of Thrones in here because the ratings are starting to dip a bit. We need to find a way to boost those up. Hey, we've got somebody from Game of Thrones. And I'm sitting here going, I don't care. Don't care. See this face? This is a face that does not care. Now, Melise Williams, or I say her name, I don't care. She's putting in a good performance. She is a good actress from what I understand. Her performance is fine. It's just the script. In either story, I don't care for. I find it overly long. There's some neat concepts there, like in The Girl Who Lived, the fact that she can't remember that because a human being's not supposed to have that kind of immortality. So the fact she doesn't even remember her name, just calls herself Me, and she keeps a diary of all of her entries, that's fascinating. That's a neat concept. Points for that. But it's in a story I find uninteresting. It has an ending I find uninteresting. Now, I do like that shot at the end of part 1 when it does that camera pan around her face and you see her expression change. Great camera shot. But again, you have 2 episodes that at the end of the day, I'm like, well, there's something I never ever want to watch again, ever. Doesn't feel like Doctor Who. Boring. And, we're this far into the list and we're still in stories that I don't like. I'd even say maybe hate, but especially don't like. Stories I don't want to watch again. We're still in them at this point, this far into the list. And we're going to continue to be in that with number 27. Speaking of bad episodes with a really good scene in it, this brings us to the Zygon two-parter. This could have been one episode. I have talked about these episodes at length before. I love the Zygon speech at the end. It is phenomenal. It is one of the best speeches in all of Doctor Who. It is a phenomenal performance, especially by Peter Capaldi, but also by Jenna Coleman playing the Zygon here. It's amazing. It is stuck in an episode that is boring and does a lot of dumb things. I don't even know if I want to go on about it because I have so many times and the episode just pisses me off. First off, I love the fact that Day of the Doctor brought the Zygons back. I didn't need to see them again. I just really didn't. And they're not utilized well here in my opinion. All of the scene when the military guys surrender because the shapeshifters all look like their moms, even though they know they're fighting shapeshifters. I'm like, this is literally the stupidest military group I've ever seen. I've never seen a military group surrender so easily outside of France. Oh, man. The one police officer that Kate's running around with turns out to be a Zygon. I'm like, well, there's the least shocking thing I've ever seen in my life. No kidding. Saw that coming a mile away. It happened, and I'm like, yeah, no kidding. The cliffhanger when she blows up the plane, don't care. Kate once again going on about her dad, don't care. The cyber brig doesn't bother me as much as it does some people, but it's fine. We get it, Kate Stewart. You're the Brigadier's daughter. We know. Yeah, I've got to stop talking about this episode because talking about this episode pisses me off. Number 24 on the list is Captain Mysterio, which is okay. We're actually moving into stories that are watchable. I rewatched this one recently and liked it better than I did the first time. It was fine. I thought the cast were all right. I thought his superhero costume was dinky looking. Definitely like a TV show budget costume. The aliens were interesting. The way they could split their heads and how they replaced. That's a fascinating concept. Body horror, body possession. That's interesting. When the surgeons all walk out, that's creepy. Yeah. Honestly, you should just watch my review of that if you want to know my honest opinions. I go into more detail on it there. It's watchable, but it's watchable like every blue moon. Not one I want to go back to anytime soon, but I wouldn't call it unwatchable. Number 23 on the list is The Caretaker. Oh, another Danny Pink episode. Watchable. The villain looks kind of goofy. I swear it looks like a villain from the Sarah Jane Adventures. The Doctor and Danny butting heads frustrates me. I never understood the 12th Doctor with his thing about soldiers. Yes, soldier, soldier. His antagonism towards soldiers, I do not get. This is a guy who has worked with the unit a lot in his life. I don't get that bit against soldiers. It has some humorous moments in them. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. It's a very forgettable episode, The Caretaker. It has some funny bits. I remember that. But at the end of the day, it wasn't one I really liked. I've seen it like twice. Feel no desire to go back and rewatch it. Number 22 on the list is the Death in Heaven and whatever the other episode is. The Series 8 finale two-parter. Kind of uninteresting. Missy is great. Michelle Gomez is a highlight in this. And her chemistry with Peter Capaldi and how they are on screen together is also a highlight of this. The idea of them going to hell is weird. I mean, they don't actually go to hell, of course, but the whole plan that Missy has here is stupid, of being able to intercept people when they die. and then turned them into a cyber army. And then once again, the Cybermen are just a mindless drone army who are just kind of under the Master's command. I hate that. The modern series really doesn't get the Cybermen right much. They really screws the Cybermen over. The Cybermen do not get treated very well in modern Doctor Who. And this is another example of it. Okay, this is the one with the Cyber Brigadier, isn't it? Okay, see, I mix some of these episodes up because... Okay, the Cyber Brigadier part at the end is fine. I don't mind that the way some people do. Danny Pink getting killed. Yeah, never liked Danny Pink. Let's get him out of there. Then he comes back as a Cyberman. I'm like, fuck, more Danny Pink. The whole hurt and pain they're both going through of being separated, Danny and Claire, I never buy because I never bought into their relationship anyway. I don't feel like the actors had any chemistry. So I never really get that, although I do love the fact that we found out the Sonic works by pointing and thinking. That's pretty cool to see that that's how that particular Sonic works. Again, it's kind of uninteresting, kind of boring, not a lot going on, doesn't grab my interest. Watchable. Next on the list is the pilot. I need to rewatch this one, actually. I think I've only watched it twice. This one needs a rewatch. I like it. I love the fact it even has the Movellans in it. That's a nice callback to Destiny of the Daleks. The girl playing Heather is good. It's a great introduction to Bill. I love the fact the Doctor is a teacher now. It sets up the mystery of the vault. And I like having Nardole back. It's mostly this low just because it needs a rewatch. I don't really remember all of it. Although I do find it weird that Heather, as the water creature, can track them across time and space like that. That's a little overpowered to me. It's interesting, but it's a little much. But on rewatch, this one might go up a bit. And next on the list is Hellbent. Definitely did not live up to the episode leading into it. Hellbent is such a mixed bag. It's not all bad, and it's certainly watchable. To be fair, it is watchable. It's very annoying because it brings Clara back. And then the whole bit about him forgetting her, it's a nice inverse of, it's kind of the inverse of what happened with Donna, that instead of him erasing her memory, his memory gets erased of her, but it's still this kind of Clara Who thing where she's superior to him in this. Oh, and then the whole Clara Who thing. I mean, think about it. At the end of the episode, she's basically immortal like a Time Lord. She has her own TARDIS and her own companion, and she goes flying off for adventures. And there's even a spot in the episode where the Doctor goes, Clara Who? And I'm sitting here going, Muffin! I think he did it on purpose just because we were mocking him with Clara Who. And he's like, yeah? Not funny, Moffat. Not funny at all. The stuff going on Gallifrey, I didn't really care for. I don't know. I just don't really care for this one. It's still watchable, but it's not very good. It's a huge letdown coming off of Heaven Sent. Plus, they have like whoever playing Rassilon instead of Timothy Dalton, which I know Timothy Dalton I think was unavailable. But it's just, if you couldn't get Timothy Dalton, you should have gotten somebody imposing instead of generic old man. It does not work. Although I think that guy is from Classic Who too. The guy who played Rassilon in this, I believe he's a veteran Classic Who actor, as I recall. I'm not sure who, but I think he is. And I do love when they sneak Classic Who actors in, so maybe that was what they did there. But it's just not as daunting and intimidating as Timothy Dalton. So that doesn't quite work for me either. Although I was happy to see the General back. I do like the guy playing the General, what we get of him. Although his regeneration did feel a bit pandering, but it's fine. Yeah, not really a great episode. I'm a little kinder to it when I'm fresh off a rewatch of it, but there's a whole lot of bad going on in there. Next on the list is the Eaters of Light. This one's okay. I mean, some of the effects choices are poor in it. Like the actual creature looking like it came out of Tron is a bad choice. You really could have done this in more of a horror setting and made it a little scarier, like something out of the Hinchcliffe era. I think that'd have been more effective. You have the whole "you like what you like" conversation with Bill and the Roman soldiers, which is very much, honestly, what should have been a deleted scene that somehow got left in. It just eats up time and doesn't need to be there. Seems more agenda pushing than anything. It's fine. It doesn't bother me. It's not eye rolling or anything. How accurate it is historically, I don't actually know. It could actually be accurate historically, I don't know. But it just feels like it doesn't need to be there. But the episode, I remember fresh off my review of it, because I did do a rewatch of it a few months back, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Again, everyone involved putting in a good performance, I thought. I thought the ending was fine. Perfectly watchable. Perfect. We're into the ones that I can actually say I can enjoy watching every now and then. Now. Next on the list is Into the Dalek, which is a good Dalek story. It's a different Dalek story. It's kind of like what Fantastic Journey, Fantastic Voyage, whatever the name of the one is, where they go inside the person. But it's in a Dalek. That's pretty fun. I mean, this is still very much Capaldi in his "Am I a Good Man" era. But it's interesting, the idea of a Dalek being a good Dalek. I love his nickname for it, Rusty. I love at the end when the Dalek's just going off, killing all the other Daleks. That's awesome. And he's got the rapid fire gun. I love that. I love that scene. And how the Doctor learns to hate the Daleks because it sees the Doctor's hatred of the Daleks. That's pretty cool. The fact he can't quite keep that hidden from it, that he does have that kind of hatred for the Daleks. Although the bit at the end when the one soldier wants to travel with him, and we get that whole bit about, and that would be great if you weren't a soldier, it kind of pulls it down. So it's a fun watch, but again, it's kind of on the weaker end of Dalek stories, in my opinion. Next on the list in 17th place is Face the Raven. This one is this high up on the list for killing Clara. I like that. The most of the episode I don't really care for, to be honest. It's got some neat ideas, which is why it's this high. The idea of the bird thing being the way it is, and the consequence of Clara Who actually trying to be the Doctor here, coming around and biting her in the ass. She doesn't consult the Doctor. She doesn't talk to him. I'm Clara Who! And so she takes matters into her own hands, and because she's not the Doctor, there are consequences, and she dies for it. That's really, actually pretty impressive. Her death sequence, the fact she faces it the way she does, is cool. And then the ending scene when the Doctor is going off on Game of Thrones girl, me, is really good when he's, I will tear this place apart. The Doctor's not here. You have to deal with me now. And that bit at the end when he's like, you'll find the universe is a small place when I'm angry with you. Peter Capaldi nails that. And I love that ending part, which is another reason why it's this high. Number 16 on the list is The Magician's Apprentice and the Witch's Familiar, which is the story I consider to be the weakest Dalek story, which somehow on this list is higher than Into the Dalek. Hey, you'll just have to figure that out for yourself. I don't know. Normally, if I'm ranking Dalek stories, this one is at the bottom. And we're this high up the list. We're halfway through the list at this point. We are at number 16 out of 33. At halfway, we still haven't gotten to the good stories yet. We're at the okay stories to watchable stories at this point. This one does some neat things. It really does. It does some crappy things. I don't even understand why Michelle Gomez and Clara are in this. Michelle Gomez putting in a great performance. Her and Jenna Coleman have some good chemistry together. The bit where Clara's inside the Dalek is dumb. Finding out that that's how they reload is dumb. There's a lot of dumb. I love the ending bit when they realize they're on Skaro. That's pretty cool, I got to admit. The Doctor riding around in Davros's chair is dumb. It's hilarious. Don't get me wrong. The first time I saw that, I laughed. And if there's any Doctor that makes that funny, it's the 12th Doctor. It's funny. It's stupid. And should not happen, because that's Davros's life support system. And seeing him out of it on the ground, it's so dumb and shouldn't have happened, but it is hilarious. So, now, these scenes between the Doctor and Davros are amazing scenes. They're some of the best scenes between the Doctor and Davros, right up there with the Tom Baker stuff in Genesis. I love that. You get some really nice philosophical points, some really nice life or death points, and you actually feel like they're having a moment. And you actually almost feel it's sincere when Davros is actually happy for the Doctor as people survive. The fact you fought this hard for your people like I have for mine. And that bit about, well, we've only come to one real conclusion. You are not a good doctor. And they show that, and it feels so good. It almost feels genuine, and I love it. Just for Stephen Moffat to wipe his ass with it, because of course he does at the end. And it turned out to be a farce, and Davros playing and manipulating the Doctor, and the Doctor falls for it, which you figure the 12th Doctor wouldn't, but he still somehow falls for it. And there is so many better ways you could have done that. You could have actually had Davros be genuine and have those regrets and die. Because it's Doctor Who. You still could have brought Davros back. It could have been an earlier point in the timeline when he was still really bad. You could have had Davros clone himself. There are ways you could have gotten around that while still having that be genuine and Davros die there. But instead they had to go with the cheap cop-out. With the ending of... The ending is bad. All the sewer turd Daleks come back and take over. Huh? And then Michelle Gomez poking his eye. Really? Really? They should have let me have a go at this script. I would have been like, crap, 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 crap. We're going to keep that. We're going to keep that. We're going to rewrite this. Bring the writer back in. I'll give him the broad strokes so he can fill it in. Because at the end of the day, it's ultimately a letdown. And at number 15, and we are finally at stories I like. Stories I enjoy. Out of 33 places, we had to get up to 15 to really get into what I consider to be the good stories. And we're going to talk about Knock Knock. I like Knock Knock. I like Knock Knock. I love the atmosphere. I love the directing. I like the story. It's interesting. I love the guy playing, the guy who rents out the apartment, the guy who plays Perot or whatever his name is, the Agatha Christie detective. And he's also in Wing Commander, even though it's a terrible movie. He's great in this. He's really good in this. I think the actual the people who are the roommates range from, they're all right. I don't think they're blowing me away, but they're all right. Pearl Mackey's great. The Doctor's great. Peter Capaldi's pretty much always great. I love the amusing dynamic between Bill and the Doctor on this one when he's like pretending to be her grand. I'm not old enough to be her grand. I do love some of the little back and forth. They have good rapport there. I really enjoy it. And then the actors have good chemistry as well. It's a little bit of a cop-out at the end when everybody lived. Like everybody ended up living. I think it's a little bit of a cop-out. Got to keep that PG rating. I do. Now, I didn't necessarily want everyone to die, but the fact everyone kind of lived at the end is a bit of a cop-out. But I enjoy it. I thought the opening, when the guy just gets pulled into the wall, is a great opening. When they find him and he's kind of barely sticking out of it and gets pulled in, it's pretty cool. The way the guy keeps tapping the house with the tuning fork is really neat and creepy. There's a lot of good stuff going on in this episode. I enjoyed my last rewatch of it quite a bit. And number 14 on the list is Smile. I like Smile. It's fun. I wouldn't think you could make an emoji episode of Doctor Who and make it work. But it does. They tie it into the story enough to where I can enjoy it. It's interesting. The fact that I love when people remember that computers are really just dumb things because they only know what you tell them. So when the computers don't understand death and their job is to make people happy, the way the computer handles that situation is the fault of the programmers because for not foreseeing that event. I like stuff like that. So I think that's really cleverly done. The emoji robots look adorable, by the way. The fact that the whole city turns out to be nanites is really cool. And I tend to enjoy Capaldi with Bill. I like Capaldi with Bill a lot more than Clara usually. And I just feel like Capaldi and her have good chemistry. So yeah, it's a fun, good, enjoyable episode that I like going back to rewatch. Number 13 on the list is Sleep No More, which is probably higher than a lot of people would have it. The story itself isn't the best in the world. I think it's okay. I think the guest cast are fine in it. I mean, I like them well enough. Excuse me. A lot of the things I like about this one, because I used to not like this episode, but on my last rewatch, I can appreciate a couple things. It does a couple things really well. One, I love the creatures in the story. And I love when Doctor Who takes something ordinary and makes it scary, like statues or shadows. And in this case, it's the sleep in your eye, because that ties in with the story where, you know, you're in there for longer, so it has time to build and become its own thing. So it's basically the sleep in your eye that you wipe out every morning, builds up, becomes sentient, becomes parasitic, and then eats you and becomes living creature. That's fascinating. That is a neat idea. I would have never thought of that. And I think that's a really cool creature. That's a really clever idea. So it gets points for that. Plus, it's Doctor Who trying to do found footage, which is neat. It's nothing wrong with Doctor Who trying a popular trend and seeing what it can do with it, putting its own Doctor Who spin on it, which it does here. It puts its own Doctor Who spin on it because the whole episode we think we're seeing points of view from the cameras, like the cameras on their helmets or the cameras in their room. But the twist being there are no cameras. Their helmets don't have cameras. There's no cameras. It's the actual particles in the air. That's really clever, and I like that. Do they combine to make the most well-executed story? No. But I find both of them neat ideas, and that impresses me, and that is the reason why the story is this high. Even if the ending to it is kind of, eh? Number 12 on the list is Extremis. This one's a lot higher probably than people would have it too, but I enjoy it. I like the idea of it. It's kind of like a digital version of the Android Invasion in a way, or the Android Invasion is an analog version of Extremis. I like the fact that for most of the episode, we don't realize we're in a computer simulation. A lot of times, the other people in the story know more about the story than we do, which is kind of the inverse, because a lot of times we as the audience know more about what's going on than a lot of the characters, especially the guest characters. Like in, you know, when somebody runs into a Dalek, we know the Daleks are bad, but they, you know, some of these people might try trusting the Daleks. So a lot of times we're sitting there going, no, don't do that. We know more than the character. But this is a case where some of the characters in the story know more than we do, especially the people who realize they are simulations before we do. That's a nice inverse of how that works, which I like. And I love the ending of it when he does, I'm doing what everyone does when they're in trouble, calling the doctor. I enjoy that. It's a really neat idea that's executed really well. Now, the second and third parts are garbage and don't live up to it, but I love the stuff going on in this episode. A lot. And the fact that I felt like it pulled the wool over my eyes the first time I watched it, which I really, really liked. Number 11 on the list is The Husbands of River Song. This is a good one. I like this one. I feel like River and 12 get on really well together because a lot of times River seems like she knows more than the Doctor does, but not here. He feels like he's ahead of her here, and I like that. And Capaldi and Alex Kingston just have good chemistry together. The guest cast are fun. The premise is kind of silly, the guy with his head in the robot, and when Nardole gets his... It has these comedic beats to it that are really nice. Now, River's a little slow figuring out it's the Doctor, especially when he says, I'm the Doctor. I feel like River would have caught that a little quicker, but it is funny. There's a lot of amusement in this. And then the scene when she actually does realize who it is, and he's like, hello, sweetie. That's a touching, wonderfully acted scene. The ending is a little drawn out, but at the same time, I'm happy River gets her happy ending. I really am. It doesn't quite fit with what happens in the library episode with their last night being 24 years. It really doesn't fit with that, if I'm being honest. But it's a nice, happy little ending, so I let it slide. It's a nice watch. It's got action, it's got drama, it's got romance, it's got comedy. It's a nice blend of everything, and I enjoy it. Moving into the top 10, and we truly are getting into the just phenomenally good Capaldi stories. These top 10, I think, are true, if not masterpieces, then close to it. They're all really good. Starting at number 10 with Under the Lake and Before the Flood. I really enjoyed this one. I love how it uses the time travel mechanic well. I love the mystery of why these shadowy figures of dead people are appearing and why they're not friendly. I feel like the actual end of the episode, when you see the Fisher King or whatever, is a little bit of a letdown. But I do enjoy it. It uses, again, the time travel mechanic well. I think it has a good cliffhanger of the Doctor being there looking like he's one of the ghosts. The guest characters, I feel, are really good. I love the romance between a few of them going on. I just find this one a lot of fun. I've only watched it all the way through 2 or 3 times because it's one of those I like to treat as like a special treat to myself. But it's really good Doctor Who. It really is. Number 9 on the list is Robots of Sherwood. And this is another one I didn't like the first time I watched it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't really care much for it. But on rewatch, it has grown on me. It's just funny. It's fun. It's kind of like the Crimson Horror and Unicorn and the Wasp. It's fun filler. The guy playing Robin Hood's putting in a good job. I love the almost childlike competition between him and the Doctor. And it's interesting because Series 8 Capaldi is very much the grumpy old man, but he acts so childish in this episode. Even though he's still the grumpy old man, he acts so childish. And Capaldi gets a lot of funny material to work with here. And if this was real, some of us might live a long time, some of us might only live 6 months. That bit where he keeps doing the 6 months thing is really funny. And then when they're having the archery contest and he finally just gets frustrated and blows it up with a sonic while he's talking, just click. When they're chained up in the prison and they're arguing and like Robin's calling him old man and he's like, oh, you think you'll outlive me? Well, you'll find I have a certain genetic advantage. I just love that. And then Clara's having to play mom. I do actually like Clara in this episode. Normally I don't like Clara with 12, but it's really Listen where all of that started. Clara is really good with him. And she's like a mother mediating between 2 sons right here. I absolutely love it. I live for it. I like how they add the robots and the fictional space sci-fi elements to it. It works. I love the twist at the end when we find out who the main girl is, the kind of guest star girl we've been seeing the whole episode, which the actors are doing a great job. The ending there with her, because I didn't see that coming. I didn't call that. And when Doctor Who can make me go, I didn't see that coming. I like that. So it gets points for that. I love when the Doctor and Robin are sword fighting and the Doctor's like, I am the Doctor and this is my spoon. And he's using the... It's fun. This episode is so much fun. And I love Doctor Who when it's fun. Number 8 on the list is Time Heist. Another one I find fun. It's like Doctor Who does Ocean's 11. And I'm there for it. You know, they've assembled this crack team to break in, steal the stuff. Again, I love the timey-wimey nature of it. I love even the Doctor not quite sure what's going on till the end because of the memory worm. I love the fact the Doctor, listening to the guy talking with his arrogance, figured out who it was. I really like this one. It has a couple places where it dips, but overall, it's a fun ride, and I like that. Number 7 on the list is Flatline. This is one of the episodes where Clara gets to take center stage, and I actually do enjoy it. Jenna's putting in a good performance. It makes sense story-wise why she's the one kind of leading the charge here with the Doctor stuck in the TARDIS. The idea of the TARDIS shrinking like that, I like that. This is the one time where watching Clara have to be the Doctor works for me. The gas cast are fine. They're nothing to write home about, but they're fine. The villains are the stars of this. Again, I love when Doctor Who does these unique villains. And they're creatures from a universe that's 2 dimensions. And so they're 2-dimension villains. Watching how people get killed by them turned into just the flat lines. And watching the creatures themselves evolve to where they're the 2-dimensional objects that can move, to where they start becoming 3-dimensional objects running around. It's great to watch them evolve, and then watching how the Doctor, once he does get out, stops them just like that. It's a little Deus Machina, but I love it, and it feels like Capaldi just earns it. And I love his speech there. You have done your job, so now it's time for me to do mine. The man who stops the monsters, and boom, gone, the boneless. I love that. It's unique, it's clever, it's intelligent, it uses Clara effectively, it's got a really cool villain, and it's got a great conclusion. It's such a fun, unique episode to watch. Number 6 on the list is Deep Breath. This is another one that on original watch I thought it was okay, but nothing special. But rewatches have really made me grow to like it. It's a fun episode. It's a neat first episode for Capaldi. Now, immediately I got put off by him when he insulted the scarf. When he talks about the scarf, he's like, no, I'm over that. That was stupid. I was automatically against Capaldi there. It took me a while to warm up to Capaldi, I think because of that comment. You don't insult the scarf. You don't insult the scarf. You don't do that. But he was a good actor in the role from the get-go. I love how it ties in with The girl in the fireplace, with it being the sister ship from the Madame de Pompadour, but it's not a rehash of that. It takes that concept of the robots on the ship and does its own thing with it totally differently. Also, the makeup design on the clockwork robots on that is fantastic, especially that lead guy that is phenomenal special effects. Very impressive. I love the feel of this episode. I love the look of this episode. I'm not a big fan of the Ponstanatter gang or whatever they're called, to be honest, but they're utilized very well here. I'm not a fan of Clara having trouble accepting the Doctor, because she's met all of the Doctors. She, more than any companion ever, should be able to accept the Doctor having a different face and a different personality. Although, at least on one hand, I get the fact that while she's met all the other Doctors, her Doctor was always there. And the fact her Doctor is gone is probably what's taking her some adjusting to, especially since she had a bit of a crush on her Doctor, and he's an old man now. So it's like I can get it, but it's still kind of forced. Just so they could have that wonderful cameo at the end, which, by the way, that cameo is amazing. I'm surprised no one ever thought of that before in Doctor Who. But that cameo at the end when Clara's on the phone, fantastic. Loved that. Very clever. This episode has some humor. It has some drama. It has some tension. I like everything going on in it. The Doctor talking with the horse. Oh, that's usually how I pick up girls. Or not the horse, the T-Rex. I love watching the Doctor talk to the T-Rex. I will keep you safe. That's usually how I meet women. I love that. I absolutely love a lot of the stuff going on in this episode. It's always a fun rewatch. It really is. And number 5 on the list is World Enough in Time and the Doctor Falls, Capaldi's series finale for his final series, if not quite his last episode. I really like this one. I love the whole idea of this kind of genesis of the Cybermen and this kind of parallel evolution to what happened on Mondos. And I love how they do it with the idea of the ship being stuck in the black hole and using the theories of a black hole and how they distort time to where one end of the ship is moving at a drastically different speed than the other end of the ship, and that's how the Cybermen evolved there. It's just a means to survive. I think that's really neat, a cool concept. I love seeing the Mondasian Cybermen again. Part 1 is better than Part 2. Part 2 is still good. I don't like that we don't see a lot of the Mondasian Cybermen. Very quickly in Part 2, they jump to the modern time Cybermen, and we never get any in between. Like, we never see the Tomb Cybermen, the Revenge Cybermen, the Earthshock Cybermen. It just jumps kind of to the most updated Cybermen. And I get in reality why that's the case. You know, it would cost money to make all of those costumes. The show is done on a budget. I get it, but it's still, from a story and from an in-universe standpoint, it's bothersome. Especially since I tend to love those older designs. I love how the episode starts as a comedy with Missy. I'm Doctor Who, and these are my companions, comic relief and exposition. And then literally winks at us. That's hilarious. Now, it starts off with that comedy, but then it quickly escalates to the guy with the gun and the Doctor having to come out and defuse the situation. And you figure he's going to. It's the 12th Doctor. He's going to make this amazing speech. He's going to talk the guy down and BAM! Shoots Bill. Hole right in Bill's chest. You just see Bill. You don't see it coming. It's just like, that's pretty cool. I love the idea of having a multi-master story. It's one of those things you're kind of surprised it's never happened before, because it's a neat idea. And this is my favorite version of the Sims Master, I think. This is definitely the version of him I prefer. He's a little more grounded while still being a little odd. Some of the conversations he had with Missy are a little weird, although him and Michelle have great chemistry together. But I love how, you know, he's that master who tells the Doctor, you know, this is the face that didn't listen to a word you just said. Because you feel like being stuck here with all these Cybermen has left him a bit bitter and hardened and frustrated. It's nice to see Missy have such a cool character arc here and kind of see her come, you know, back to the light side, I guess, if she was ever on the light side, really. And how she wants to stand with the Doctor, change her ways, and how that doesn't work out for her, and the Doctor never knows. It's another reason why I'm so frustrated they brought the Master back so fast in Whittaker's era, even though Sasha's doing a great job playing him. Especially that he's so much more the Master again. Like, my headcanon is always that the Sasha Master happens before the Missy Master. I know Big Finish Audio doesn't go with that, but you know how canon it is kind of up in the air anyway. But I like the idea that Sasha's Master is between the Sims Master and the Misty Master. You know what I mean. Michelle Gomez is Missy. But I enjoy them together. I love the fact that they turn on each other. That's very the Master. For the Master to be so self-centered and wanting their own way, for them to turn on each other, that is poetic justice. It's perfect. It's so fitting. I love the ending with the first Doctor reveal. I love that. I absolutely love that ending. When the first Doctor walks out of snow and how they tie it in with 10th Planet. That's a beautiful, beautiful cliffhanger. Yeah, it's a really good one. And Capaldi, of course, is putting in a good performance the way he always does. I'm glad Bill kind of got her happy ending, I guess, with Heather. But I really love that ending with Capaldi and David Bradley. That moves us into number 4 on the list, which is Twice Upon a Time. I like Twice Upon a Time a lot. It doesn't get the first Doctor quite right, let's be honest. And the more you see of the Hartnell era, the more you realize how it doesn't get the first Doctor quite right. Now, the first Doctor is fine for the most part if you only watch modern Who. And when I first saw Twice Upon a Time, I'd only seen a few Hartnell episodes. I used to say back when I started the channel, Hartnell was kind of my weak area with Classic Who. I just hadn't seen a lot of his stuff, having only seen 6, 7, 8 of his stories. But as I've seen most of Hartnell's era now, I can see how problematic Bradley's Doctor is. David Bradley is doing a good performance, but he's very obviously doing his own take on the first Doctor, not Hartnell being the first Doctor. And on one hand, I can understand that, but on another hand, it feels weird. Like, I much prefer Richard Herndl as the first Doctor, because it feels like, to me, he acts more like William Hartnell's first Doctor, especially the way he commands a room. Whereas Bradley's is a more kindly old man, which the first Doctor could be very kind and very hilarious. He's not always the grumpy old man some people think he is, let's be clear. But Bradley's Doctor feels a little too nice, like he has no teeth. Of course, there is the kind of, where the episode's kind of poking fun at sexism in the 60s, which it goes a little overboard with, because Classic Who was never that sexist, ever. Now, a couple of the comments I didn't mind, and the one when he even goes, this TARDIS could do with a good spring cleaning. I will admit I laughed just because the way Bradley delivers the line to me is very funny. But then it keeps going on, the bit about when he tells Bill about smacking her bottom, I get that's a nod to Dalek Invasion of Earth. But it's different for, a grandfather, especially back then, to say that to his granddaughter than for, a grandfather figure to say that to a complete stranger he just met. And so that's a little weird. The bit about the women made of glass is a little... Now, in my head canon, the reason the first Doctor is doing that is to put Lethbridge Stewart at ease, the Colonel Lethbridge Stewart that's there with them. Because he's of the time where those would have been more appropriate comments, and he probably would have found them amusing. And to me, that's why the first Doctor is saying all this, is he's trying to do whatever he can to make the World War I Lethbridge Stewart more at ease with the situation. That's how I picture it, and it works for me. Despite all of that, I do like this episode a lot. I love how it starts with the 10th Planet footage, 709 episodes ago, and transitions into, like modern reshoots of episode 4 of 10th Planet before transitioning into the Doctors running into each other. That's really cool. I do enjoy Capaldi a lot in this. I do enjoy kind of the banter between Capaldi and Bradley at times. The ship! You're still calling it the ship! I love little moments like that. I love seeing Rusty again. They didn't really have to bring Bill back, but it works for the plot. Same thing with Nardole at the end. I love the fact that it wasn't an evil plan. I do like that, actually. I don't know what to do if it's not an evil plan. I love that. I love the fact that Capaldi's final story is not some big evil plan. That it is something innocent like that. I don't know why, but I do enjoy that a lot. I love Capaldi's hair in this episode. I love in Series 10 and here how his hair just got more doctory. I really enjoy that. Almost Pertwee-like. I love that. And then I I love the ending. The 12th Doctor's regeneration is okay. His speech is too long. It's a good speech. It's too long. Maybe children can hear your name. That's a little much. I get it's a nod to something Capaldi gave in an interview. It's a little much. But it's fine. I do like some of the stuff in there. Never eat pears, you know. Always try to be nice, but never fail to be kind. He has some great stuff in there. It just goes on too long. The regeneration itself is okay. I do love that the last shot is of the attack eyebrows, just like the first shot of him was. How that kind of comes full circle there. Whitaker's minute we get there, it's fine with her. It's fine. What really sells me on the episode is the first Doctor's regeneration. This is my favorite regeneration, even more so than his regeneration in 10th Planet. My favorite regeneration is when the first Doctor regenerates in this episode. I love that we get that last little moment with Bradley hitting the recall button on the TARDIS. And then I love the music playing there. I love how it takes Tennant's theme from End of Time, which is very sad, and changes it into something very hopeful. Because it starts off being kind of sad, you're mourning the first Doctor. And then right when you see the footage transition back to the 10th Planet, it gets upbeat and hopeful and energetic and the promise of a new tomorrow. And this boundless possibilities. And I love that. Renewal, regeneration, I love that. I love that piece of music right there. And I love how it transitions back to the 10th Planet footage and we actually see the actual regeneration. It's perfect. It's perfect. I love that. It's just a fun episode. Flawed, but a fun episode. And it's one I like to go back to a lot. Oh, also Mark Gatiss is putting in a really good performance. Number 3 is Mummy on the Orient Express. This one is so much fun. This one is written well, it is directed well, it is acted well. It's that perfect storm of everything coming together. Good writing, excellent direction. I love whoever directed this episode. The actors all putting in a good performance. Capaldi going into overtime. Clara is good in this one. The guest cast. I love the concept of the story and the explanation of why the mummy exists. Why only the people that it's targeting can see it, how it can move around. I love that all of that has a real world explanation with a science and a technology behind it, and it's not like spirits and ghosts. I love that. I love the clock ticking down when it happens. I love that it's all set in this confined space on a train where there's no way out, especially on a train, which is even more confined. It's almost a base under siege story because no one can leave. I love the guy playing the conductor or the engineer a lot too. The one the Doctor offers to let go with him if he wants. He's great. And then the resolution of it. I love the resolution when the Doctor figures out how to get him to surrender. I love that. That's great. I absolutely love that. Or to get the mummy to stop, I should say. I love that. And then I love that bit at the end. Hello, I will be your victim this evening. Are you my mummy? I love that. And the way Capaldi delivers it. This is one of the funnest episodes of his era, easily. It's so much fun to go through and watch, and it's directed so well. Number 2 on the list is Thin Ice. I really love Thin Ice. I've talked about it many times on the channel. It's a historical done right. It's almost a pure historical, not quite, but it's such a good historical. And this, of course, is Bill still figuring the Doctor out. And that conversation they have at one point, when Bill's like, you've seen people die? Have you ever killed anyone? How come you don't seem, worried and caught up about it? And then he's like, then more people die. That whole conversation between them is well written, well directed, and it's acted by Pearl Mackie and Peter Capaldi so well. And she's really getting a feel for just who this guy is. Also, the set design and costume design are perfect. The BBC is really good at doing historical pieces when it comes to their sets and their costumes. And this is perfect right here. I almost feel like I'm transported back in time to that time. Everything looks so good. We get to see a kid get killed. I mean, Doctor Who had gotten to where it kind of shied away from that kind of thing. We see a kid get it, like the kid who has his Sonic, and when they find him, it's just a hand holding the Sonic. And when the Doctor takes it, the hand just... I'm like, they actually did that. They had the balls to do that. I liked that. I got a kick out of that. I love when he's like, all right, we're going to go in there and we're going to be diplomatic. And then he ends up punching the guy in the face. I absolutely love that. There's so many fun things and good things going on in this episode. It's easily my second favorite Capaldi story. I need to give it another rewatch, actually. It is one I like to go back to. And number one has to be Heaven Sent. I mean, Heaven Sent is a masterpiece. It's one of the best episodes of Doctor Who ever made. It's just phenomenal. And Peter Capaldi is pretty much putting on a one-man show in it. It is an excellent framing device for dealing with grief, as this happens right after he loses Clara, who is obviously very important to him. And him having to deal with that grief and relive the same moments over and over and over. This episode, again, I've mentioned this a lot here at the end, but it is written well. It is directed superbly. It is acted perfectly. The costume design, the set design, again, it's a perfect storm of everything coming together. And Murray Gold's music, especially the Shepherd's Boy at the end, fits perfectly. Watching the Doctor slowly figure out what's going on and watching him go back and forth as he's putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. And then the ending when it all makes sense. And we, as the audience, realizes what's happening as the Doctor has the final puzzle click in place. And why the bird's there, who set everything up at the beginning, how long this has been going on. And it's just a perfect resolution. I mean, the ending is not 100% good just because it leads into Hellbent, which is... But it's just this perfect storm of everything going right. I mean, that's one of those episodes where if it was the first episode of Doctor Who I ever saw, I would want to see more. I would want to see more. Just so many cool things going on in Heaven Sent. It's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece of Doctor Who. And everyone should see it. So that's my list. I want to know what you think of this list and how you would rank them. So comment down below and let me know. Other things to do. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button and the bell for notifications so you never miss out on another video. I also have a Patreon. If you would like to subscribe to that or become a member of that, there is a link to that down in the description below as well. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Finn Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. It does make a difference and it's very much appreciated. I have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me to look at and review. This down in the description, as is a link to my Amazon wish list. Most importantly, thank you for watching. Did we even talk about Hellbent? I must have talked about Hellbent at some point. I'll have to look at it on the playback.